In last night's Democratic debate, Bernie Sanders was asked a question on raising taxes to corporations, or on. In last night's Democratic debate, Bernie Sanders was asked a question on raising taxes on corporations by somebody who supports Trump.
Senator George Jackson is self-employed. George?
Hey, George, how are you?
Hi, Senator Sanders. I'll speak for the American public. You're much more honest than Hillary. Also a Trump supporter. My question to you is, you talk about the rich, and by taxing the rich to help our economy, wouldn't that hurt those rich business owners that help create jobs?
Well, George, good question. I disagree with you in this sense. We got to put into context what's happened in the last 30 years. And what's happened in the last 30 years, as you may know, you can tell me if you disagree with me, but the facts are there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the working class and the middle class to the top 1/10 of 1%. And right now we have seen a doubling of wealth owned by the top 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. You talk about corporations and job creation. Almost all of the major corporations in this country, do you know what they've been doing in the last 30 years? Do you think they've been creating jobs in America? No, they've been creating jobs in China and Mexico. And one of the strong differences of opinion that Secretary Clinton and I have helped lead the opposition against every one of these terrible trade programs. NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China. I don't believe American workers should be forced to compete against desperate people around the world who are making pennies an hour. And if elected president, George, I am going to change those trade policies. Corporations are going to invest in America, not in China. But to answer your question, I do not believe in trickle-down economics.
I do not believe in trickle-down economics. About time somebody said that. I mean, point blank, right? Especially on Fox News. I do not believe in trickle-down economics. And there's good reasons for it. We've been doing that shit for the last 30 plus years. It really hasn't worked out for us. I mean, it's worked out for somebody. The people at the top 0.1%. They've been making a killing off that. It's worked out fantastic for them, terrible for us. But here's what's great about his question, right? Is that, look, Trump at his rallies always brings up China and brings up Mexico. And he even brings up the TPP in the debates. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. We're getting killed in trade. We're getting killed in trade. We're getting murdered, slaughtered, whatever. We got to do something about trade. You know, if they outsource their jobs or outsource American jobs over to China, we're going to slap a tariff on them. It's going to be huge. It's going to be great. That's very popular, especially if you've lost your job to outsourcing. I know, I've been there. I've actually had my job outsourced. So, or a place that I had worked at left for Mexico. So I've been there. I understand how people feel, right? And those issues, without the racist stuff from Mexico, right, are issues that Senator Sanders and Trump can definitely see eye to eye on, and they actually do. They're both against NAFTA. They're most against permanent trade relations with China, the way that we have it now, and against the trade deficit. They both believe in good trade deals, and they also know that right now we have terrible trade deals that actually reward businesses with tax breaks and shit for going overseas. That's not right. That's not right. And it's issues like this that could actually sway a Trump supporter, especially if somebody who's worried about outsourcing, right? You could switch that guy over to Senator Sanders. So now I think it was a great way to answer that question. You tie in tax breaks that we give to corporations to outsourcing, to the fact that, hey, even though we're giving those breaks to you, you're still outsourcing your jobs. Why? Why? What are you doing that? Why are you doing that? That's not right. So anyway, now Bernie Sanders, he's going to continue with his answer. Let's listen.
I do not believe that if you give tax breaks to the rich and large corporations, suddenly it's going to come down and help working families. What I do believe in is that we got to put more money into the hands of working families. How do you do that? You raise the minimum wage to a living wage. You know, I was in Flint, Michigan, well, obviously last night, but on several other occasions. Our infrastructure, and it's not just, George, it's not just Flint, where kids are drinking poisoned water. It is all over this country, our roads and our bridges and our airports. Why is it that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, our infrastructure is collapsing? So I believe we should do away with tax loopholes. You can argue with me. I don't think it's appropriate that you have major corporations making billions of dollars a year, stashing their profits in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, and you know what they end up paying in a given year? They don't pay a nickel in federal taxes. I think they should pay taxes. I think we use that money to rebuild our infrastructure. We create 15 million jobs over the next 10 years. So I think you and I have a difference.
A little bit, maybe. But maybe not so much as you might think. Look, his answer was good. I don't know if it swayed the Trump supporter or not. But he laid out a great argument that against the fact that we have been lowering taxes for the so-called job creators, and they've still been moving their jobs overseas. So what's the point of letting them pocket millions and millions of dollars and shifting the tax burden essentially over to the middle class if they're not going to get anything out of it? And that's the thing. We're not getting anything out of it. And it would be the most rational thing in the world to say, hey, we're giving you millions and millions in tax breaks to create jobs. You're creating jobs, but you're decided to create them in fucking Mexico or in China for slave wages. It would be rational to say that since you're doing that, we're not going to give you a fucking dime unless you start actually paying taxes here in America or creating good paying jobs here in America. What's essentially going on is that they're fucking us over in order to make an extra buck. And see, in the companies that don't fuck people over, that actually stay local, well, they actually get hurt. Especially when they're trying to actually employ Americans and have to pay our wages. Now, Sanders argues that, hey, look, we can't have that, right? We can't do that. We're not going to subsidize you for outsourcing jobs. We're not going to give you that money. Fine, if you want to do it, fine, but we're not going to let you have those loopholes. You're going to pay your fucking taxes, and that's it. No more special breaks, no more giveaways. We're done with that. We're done with that. And so that's the thing. We give them special rules and tax breaks when they don't do, and when they don't do anything, when they don't do what they're supposed to. Remember, the whole promise was, oh, don't worry, help us lower our business costs so then we can shift more resources into hiring people. We'll have more resources, we can hire more people. Well, guess what? They haven't fucking done it. And when we bring this up, the government doesn't do anything in return. They sit and shrug their shoulders. And when people ask, hey, we the people ask, hey, we gave this money to you in a tax break in order to have you create jobs. Well, where are the jobs? Where are the fucking jobs? They always answer the same answer. We got to give us more money. You got to give us more money. It's not enough. We need more. We need more tax breaks. We need more giveaways. We need more loopholes so we can create jobs. It never ends. And this is all while the politicians who are bought and paid for make sure that they give the breaks to them anyway. All for creating jobs overseas. It makes absolutely no sense. How much more do we have to give you guys? How much more? Well, the truth is, we can't give them enough for them to come home. It's time to go after them. It's time to end their free ride. If they want to do business in America, then they damn well better pay their fucking taxes and create jobs in America.